What's up, guys? This is Josh, one of your Linode developer advocates, and welcome back to another video. And today I want to show you guys how easy it is to set up your own personal dashboard for your lab using Linode. So follow along with this video and I'll have you up and running in no time. Before we get started, I want to cover what exactly Dashy is. Well, Dashy is a self-hosted dashboard to help you keep your applications and services organized within your lab. Now, we all know setting up your own lab can be fun, but once you start diving into different applications and services that you install, you can easily lose track of where everything is. So Dashy is a solution that can help you with this issue. So let's go on and get started showing you guys Dashy. So the first thing you need to do is set up an Linode account, which is very easy to set up. If you don't have one set up, just check down in the description of this video for the link to get started. The sign up for Linode is absolutely free, and you will receive a $100 credit that you can use for the first 60 days after your account is created. So once you have your account set up, this is the main dashboard that you'll be greeted with. And at this point, you need to go through the process of setting up your Linode. And one cool feature about Linode, they have what they call the marketplace, which has a lot of pre-configured servers for you. And this allows for a very simple install of the initial server setup process. So let me show you guys how to set this up right fast. So the first thing we want to do is go over to the marketplace. So if we click marketplace, you'll see it'll pop up with a whole bunch of apps. And what you want to do is select the one for what you're trying to do. And as you can see, all the apps are listed. And what we're looking for today is a Docker server. We want to set up a Docker server in order to install Dashy. And so let's scroll down and find Docker. All you have to do is select Docker and then go down to the bottom and configure the server that you want to set up. And down here, it has some options for you, and these are like advanced options. You can set up a limited sudo user. As soon as this server is brought up, it'll create those accounts for you. So I'm gonna go down and create one. I'm gonna just name it Josh. And let me verify. Let me make sure I type it in properly. Boom. And then now you can also add your SSH public key to the Linode, so you can automatically use key authentication to connect to your server. But we're not going to do that currently. And then also you can disable root access over SSH if you need to. But we're going to skip those steps and scroll down to the bottom and select our image. Now we're going to use Debian 10 for this demonstration. It's very simple to use. That's the current version, Buster. And then the next step is selecting your region. I'm on the West Coast, so I'm gonna select Fremont, California, which is fine. And now you want to set your plan. And what I'm gonna use is a shared CPU and a Linode 1 GB. So just select based on your needs for whatever you're gonna do with the server once it's set up. So boom. And then there is a root password, and you want to type that in. You definitely want to set a root password for your server. And then you can also add other SSH keys as well as attach VLANs. And then also they have some add-ons like backups and private IPs, but we're not going to need that for this demonstration. So let's go down and hit create Linode. Boom. And then this will go through the process of setting up that Docker server for us. It'll install the applications, the repository for Docker, install Docker, as well as all its dependencies, and then provision the server, create user accounts and all that stuff, and start the server. And as I stated, this makes the process so much easier by them having that app list. So let's wait around for this server to boot up. Now that our Docker server is up, let's go down and switch over to the terminal so we can run through and install Dashy. I grabbed the IP address of the Linode so we can SSH into it, and I'm gonna just paste it in there. But basically all you need is an IP address. I'm gonna use the root account for this demonstration, so let's log into the right fast. And this is our first time logging into the server, so it needs to add the fingerprint. So we can type yes there, press enter, and that'll permanently add that IP address to our list of known hosts. Now let's type in our root account password and press enter, and that'll log us into our actual server. And let me clear the screen. Okay, in order to get started, the first thing you want to do is check the version of Docker that you have installed on the system. So we can type Docker dash version, and that'll check the version that we have, and this just verifies that we have Docker installed. As you can see, the current version is 20.10.9. That's the current version that's installed on this server for us. And if you're new to Docker, you might want to familiarize yourself with the commands. You can also type Docker -h, and this will show you the help, and it will list out everything that you could do with Docker as far as pulling images, starting Dockers or starting containers, running containers, all that good stuff is right there if you type Docker -h. Now what we want to do is actually look for the image, and the application name is Dashy, so we can type Docker and then search. And like I said, you might want to familiarize yourself with the commands for Docker, but this is the command you can use to search for images in the repository. And the application name, you just want to type it in, so Dashy, and press enter, and it'll search for Dashy or search for the images, and it also gives you some information about them. You can kind of tell by this number. I have to have it zoomed in so you guys can fully see, but if you look at it right here, this kind of breaks it all down, all the columns. So the first one is the name of the image, and this is the image that we're actually looking for. It says a dashboard for your home lab, but this is the amount of stars, so this thing has 9 stars. So all we have to do is actually copy the name of this image, because this is the image that we want to down or pull down. And so the command to pull it down is Docker pull, and then we can paste that image name down in here, and that'll pull the image down. As you can see, it'll go through, download, and extract everything for you in the local repository. So once this finishes, we'll go down and start up Dashy, because that's pretty much the last step to get Dashy up and running. And that's one of the reasons I recommend people check out Docker containers, because it's the simplest way to actually get a lot of these applications installed and hosted on your server. Everything is self-contained within that Docker, so you don't have to worry about dependencies, because everything is within that container. Now let's go down and store our Dashy server, and it's a command. I'll paste it in just to make it quick so you guys can see how to actually do it, and I'll walk through each part of the command before we actually run it. But as you can see, you run Docker run, and then -d stands for detach, -p is the ports, -- name. We're actually naming the Docker or the container, and then this option right here, -- restart, equals always, and then the actual container that we have pulled down to the system. So let's go down and press enter right there, and that'll start up our Dashy server. Now that we have it installed and our container running, we can switch back over to the browser and go to our Dashy so I can show you guys what it's all about. And before I switch over, I just wanted to show you guys something. We use port 8080. Now you can use whatever port you want. The internal port is port 80, but the external port is 8080. So since we're coming from the outside, we have to use 8080. So let's go down and switch back over to our browser and pull up the IP address as well as port 8080. So open up a new tab and put the colon and then 8080 and press enter. And then one thing about Dashy, when you first spin up the container, it has to go through initialization period, and it runs checks and as well as build the actual server. But it won't be slow like this anymore. Unless you reboot the server and you have like a new config or something, it has to rebuild the actual application. Now, this is Dashy. As you can see, it's very simple to set up. That didn't take long at all. But this thing has a lot of options. This is basically your own little dashboard. And let's start over here at the top. You have the about right here. So you can click on that and that'll actually take you to the project. All the information about the project. It says Dashy is the self-hosted store page for keeping your running applications and services organized. The aim of Dashy is to provide an easy to deploy, highly customizable, and functional dashboard in order to improve productivity and enable easy organization of running services or web links. And then it also has some information, the sources, all the other information about Dashy. So let's press back, and then you can also look at the source code, and that will actually open up the GitHub. So you can check out everything about the application. It has a whole bunch of documentation for it. And you're definitely going to need the documentation in order to customize your server fully, because a lot of it's done from a configuration file, and it's one single configuration file. And I'll show you guys some customization to it before I end this video, but I'm going to close that and then just show you a little bit of basic navigation. Right here you have a search, and then right here, so you can search whatever applications you have down here or services. And then also here are the themes, so you can go through and select one of their themes that they have built for you, and we'll leave it at that because it's a little bit easier on the eyes, and you guys should be able to see it a little better. And then you can also open up the theme configurator, and this will allow you to make just some custom changes. You can change up the colors by using the color codes and all that good stuff. Now the next thing is the layout. So auto, and then also you can do the horizontal layout like that, and then you can also do the vertical layout, and that'll make more sense once you have more services on here. And then also you could change the size to small or big, depending on what you wanted, or the large version, but I'll just leave it to default. I think it's medium. And then now this is where you can configure the server. So if you hit the little wrench, that'll open up a menu, and you can go through and do all your configurations from here. And then you can download the configuration, the current configuration, as like a backup or something, like if you want to make changes locally, and then upload them back to the server. You can do it from there. You can also edit the config directly in this location. And if we go through here, you'll see it's not that difficult to use. It's just kind of slow that way. In my opinion, the way I like to do things is configure the server locally and then upload the changes to the server. And I'll show you guys that in a second. Now they also have cloud backup and restore. You can make backups of it. And then also they have some CSS or custom styling you can add to the server as well. And it's that theme configurator again, like we clicked over there, but it's under here as well. But back to the main menu. That just kind of links back to the custom styles and the cloud sync that goes over there, and you can change the app language and also rebuild the application from here. And then you can also reset local settings, and right here is just a pop-up basically saying it's recommended to make backups, but then the app information, you can click on that and that'll give you some app information about it. It says no recent errors detected, so you get to go and just some more information to documentation and all that stuff. And as you can see, we have the most up-to-date version of Dashy, which is 1.8.6. So let's go down and get out of that and go down and close the wrench and just show you something. This is a view switcher, so you can use the defaults or you can click on minimal. And then if you click on it again, you can go to workspace, and these are just different ways of actually looking at it. And let's change it back to the default, but I really like the default. That's the way I really like it, but that's simple enough. Now let's get into the configuring of the server, and what I want to do is show you guys based on some sample configs that are out there. And this is something that I recommend people use when they're trying to learn how to configure this thing, because the configuration can be difficult if you've never used the YAML language. Now let's click back over to the source code and open up the GitHub, because I want to go to the documentation and just pull one of the configurations just to make some quick changes to the server. And if we come down to the configuration section, and one thing I like to click on, or one thing I found that they have, example config. So if we click right there, that'll open up some example configurations for it. If we scroll down, you'll see a couple of them. And one of them I want to grab is the bookmarks. And I'm going to basically copy all of the raw code. And then let's switch back over to the terminal right fast, because what we're going to do is stop this Dashy and delete the container. And I'm going to show you something cool that you want to set up in order to make the configuration a whole lot easier to run. So back to the terminal. And one of the first things we want to do is basically create our own local configuration, because if you understand how Docker works, it's basically its own self-contained mini virtual machine. But you can link specific files to the host machine, which is the machine that it's running on. And what we're going to do is create our own local config for on the host computer, and then link it to our container that we're going to create. So the first thing we want to do is create our YAML file. So we can do touch, and then what we want to do is put it under our root directory, and then we can name it dashy.yml. And that's basically for YAML. And press enter, boom, and that has our configuration file. So now let's open it up and modify it right fast. So nano, and then dashy.yml. Let's open it up and go down and paste that configuration in there. So that's basically what I did, was just paste that sample configuration into that location. Now let's save that configuration. And boom, write it out to it. Now we're good to go, but we still have that current container running. So let's find out what it is and stop it. And this is where your Docker understanding comes into play. So Docker, and the way you see running containers is the PS command. So Docker PS, that'll list out running containers. As you can see, that is our Dashy container right there, but right here is the ID for it. So let's copy that, because we're going to need that in order to stop it and remove it. So the command to stop it is simply Docker and then stop. And then let's paste that ID in there, press enter. That'll actually stop that container for us. Now let's go down and remove it by typing Docker remove. And basically the reason we're removing it is so we can create a new container using that same name. So let's press enter. That'll kill that. And if we run Docker PS again, you'll see that that container is gone, and we don't have to pull down the image because the image is still there. So we can type Docker images and press enter, and you'll see that that container is still there. So that container is, is still on the system, so we can actually run it again. And that's, I'm only explaining that in case you don't understand Docker too well. Okay, so let's go down and start our new container using that configuration that we just created. And I just wanted to break it out for you again so you guys can see, but it's basically the same exact command we used to start it, but it's Docker run, detach, then the ports, and then that same name, and then restore it always. But the only difference that we added was -v. This is another option. So whatever we put in the dashy.yml file locally under root will apply to the configuration that's within the application. So let's go down and press enter, and that'll start up the container again. And let's switch back over to our web browser so you guys can see the changes. And all we have to do is refresh the page, and this will go through the initialization process again. And this time it will use that configuration file that we added to the container. And this will obviously give you a starting point when setting up your Dashy dashboard. And boom, And this is super cool. You know, it basically has all your websites that you would typically go to, and you can obviously change this up, you know, as you go, or change it up. But this is just a starting point to kind of help you get everything set up. And if we look at the layout, we can change up the layout a little bit so you guys can see it, you know, how it'll look in different ways. But you know, you got your productivity section, you got your social section, and that's one thing I forgot to kind of show you guys in the configuration. If we go to edit configuration, the section is basically where you put all your links and stuff. So you got your social, same thing in the productivity, like that's that section over there. It's just broken out that way in the configuration. And you'll see it once you know, start playing around with the configuration, and you'll get a good understanding of it. It's not that difficult to use and configure if you have a little programming experience, and you don't have to be like some super programmer to figure it out. It's not that difficult. It kind of follows. All you have to do is change up the names, put the links in there, and keep the same format, and you'll be good to go. Now, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Dashy is a super cool dashboard that you guys can set up on your server to stay organized when you're managing a lot of different applications and services within your lab. And I know a lot of guys that use these types of dashboards, especially if they're in the cybersecurity field. It allows you to keep a track of all your different hosts that you have set up in order to do different testing on, and also training so you can hone your cybersecurity skills. But please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. And if you have any questions, make sure you leave comments down in the comments below. And I hope you guys have a good day, and peace.